Welcome to the Deal Champs podcast. I ran out of Topo Chico, but we'll be back next week. Don't you guys worry. You got any sparkling water on you, Jason?
Nothing? No, I'm going filtered water in the jug today. No sparkling water at the house.
I got my filtered water. I got an Alani.
I got the Deal Champs Yeti here, the tumbler. It's not sparkling water, but it is bubbly water because I got these hydrogen tabs I've been putting in them. So, there's some bubbles in here.
Okay, there we go. There's a little bit of class right there. Guys, do not forget to hit like and subscribe if you're tuning in right now. Don't forget to share it with your friends. We love the interaction. If you are watching this, leave comments and everything else. Real quick about myself, I made my first million in business at age 25. We scaled 2 different companies to 7 figures. We built a 7-figure real estate portfolio before I was 30. We have the master of hair, who's getting kind of gray these days, Mr. Jason Pritchard.
Gray's coming out, dude. It's my birthday month this month, dude.
He ran out
birthday month. I'm not doing it. I'm embracing the silver, dude. I'm just
Jason. We're gonna let this 30-year-old call us out like this. We gotta rough him up a little bit.
44 this month, boys. 44 in a few weeks, dude. It feels crazy, man. Getting up there in age, man. I am your other co-host, guys. Jason Pritchard. Backstory on me is I worked in corporate America for 15 years. Was unhappy with my job, unhappy with my life. About 11 years ago, we burned all the boats. Left the corporate world, started flipping houses. We've done over 550 deals at this point. Have a real estate portfolio just over $17 million. And I'm excited for today's pod because I've talked a little bit about social. We have graduated in the last year to doing some land development deals, doing some stuff with some national builders. And I want to get an opportunity to ask Levi a bunch of questions today. So this should be a good one.
And then we have Mr. Captain America with the fanciest water out of all of us today, Mr. Dean Rogers.
What's up, guys? I'm keeping it together here with some tape and glue. I got a sinus infection that's absolutely wrecking me right now, so I look like death right now. But still excited today. Excited to learn from Levi as well and see what he's doing. But yes, your other co-host here, guys, Dean Rogers. Started my career in the NFL. Living my childhood dream, and then I transitioned into corporate and then into real estate. Been investing in real estate the past decade in Central California. We've done 750 plus deals, have an 8-figure rental portfolio, and coaching students how to get started with wholesaling. You guys can always connect with me at deanrogers.com.
And then we have the master builder, Mr. Levi. Levi, how do I pronounce your last name, bro?
Wanner.
Yeah. Give us a quick intro, bro. Thank you so much for coming on.
So you're making me feel old here. I just turned 49, Jason, so I'm a little bit ahead of you. I actually started my real estate career, 25 years ago as a realtor. And it was funny because it was like 2004, 2005, and just started killing it right out of in early 20s, thinking this is easy. Why doesn't everybody do it? And then the 08 crash happened. So the kind of the way I got kicked off is I sold homes for a builder here, and he's still a good friend of mine. And I really learned the processes and, a lot of the subs I grew up with, and I wanted to control my own inventory. So I started building houses for myself. I just started with one spec house. And I started a property management company about that time, and that's when I got into buying rentals. So I've owned rentals for 25 years. And so I built that up to 1,000 units and sold that because I didn't want to manage properties anymore.
Just 1,000, huh?
Just 1,000, yeah. Just a little bit, bro. Just a little bit.
Yeah. It's a lot of phone calls, tenants. And so now I'm about 13 years into my building career. So I'm a builder and a realtor. So we build and sell our stuff. And I'm in Billings, Montana, and I started out with one spec house 13 years ago, and now we're doing 60 plus a year in 3 different markets in Montana. And to what Jason says, I'm trying to be one of those national builders, getting out of states and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Bro, what's your price point you're doing with up there?
So we do a good, better, best product. So my good products, just a low end spec house, 1 level, 1 car garage. We're selling those for $350. This is going to sound a lot different from you big city guys. And then we do a better, which is like a custom spec where people can pick a floor plan and pick colors and make some small modifications, and those are around 500 to 600. And then we do fully custom, up to 2-3 million here in Montana. That you get quite the house here for that.
What's your favorite good, better, best? Which one's your favorite out of the three to do?
Yeah, I built my company on the better product because there's not a lot of builders that want to do that customizing where people can come in and make selections. It's either that super custom house or
assembly line. Yeah,
or you don't get to pick anything and you get what you get. And when when you first start, I didn't have any funding or anything, so the bank would only let me do one spec at a time. So I had to do the pre-sold business to sell it from scratch and let people do modifications to get the volume up. So that's kind of how I built my company. We started the good product, that low end spec during the pandemic, and I don't care what anybody says, if they saw real estate going through the roof when the pandemic started, they were out of their minds because we all thought the world was coming to an end.
Yeah.
So I started that good product to keep my subs busy, keep my vendors busy. Because I went to high school with a lot of my subs, from my foundation crew to my plumbers and electricians. So their families and their employees mean a lot to me too. So I wanted to keep them busy, keep a low price point. So that's why we started that product, and that's really done well for us to pay overhead, keep the wheel spinning, and we're closing like one of those a week now. So keeping that production line open is kind of opened us up.
Did you have something, David?
Yeah, I've got a kind of a two-part question. When you started as a realtor, sounded like you were young. Did you just go straight into the building? Did you flip houses before that to kind of cut your teeth in construction? And what was your background with construction prior to building?
So I did a little construction. Funny story is when I was kind of a troubled youth. So I got kicked out of high school. And then I actually got kicked out of the state of Montana for a year.
What do you got to do to get kicked out of the state?
Just a series of fighting and drinking and stuff that Montana kids do, and just a lot of just troublemaking. And this is the mid '90s, so judges probably can't do this anymore. To where the judge just said, "I know you're not a bad person. You're just making bad decisions, so you just need to leave the state for a year." So my girlfriend at the time, her brother-in-law was remodeling army housing in Fairbanks, Alaska. So I didn't have anything else going on. I was 18, 19 years old. So we just took off and drove to Fairbanks, Alaska. And so I worked construction there for about 2 years, which was a good experience. And I'm the worst outdoorsman. I'm not even the guy that should live in Montana. I don't hunt. I don't fish. The outdoors for me is golf. That's about as so all I did there was work, just did all that. And then I got into property management when I moved back to Montana as a maintenance man, just fixing odds and ends stuff. And then the guys that I worked for there saw that I was good with people and could rent apartments and that kind of stuff. So I moved up into the management area of it. So and that's what I always say, I'm not like the tool belt builder. That's what we see a lot here in Montana. Everybody that has a tool belt tries to build a spec house. Mm. So that's what kind of differentiates us. Is I'm more of a salesman, businessman turned builder. So we're able to come up with the systems and the customer service that where a lot of builders are, guys that frame houses or trim houses.
Yeah.
And they don't have that expertise. So then after I had a kid, I had 2 kids really young. So I thought I wanted that government job, where you had, Veterans Day off and President's Day off and all, the good benefits and stuff. So I took a job at the Housing Authority and I made it there 6 months. It was absolutely the most brutal 6 months of my life. I was climbing the walls. I actually was just studying for my real estate test while I was working there. I just couldn't handle it. You just do too much work and they're mad at you sort of vibe.
Wow.
So I got my real estate license there. I think I was 25, 26 years old when I did that.
When did you start construction on that first house? Because I know you said you got in as the market was ramping up, like 04, 05, where it's just like you're printing crazy money.
Yeah,
I remember back then.
That's when I was
everybody
selling.
I knew was in real estate.
Yeah, that's when I was just a realtor, and so I think the first house I built was 09 maybe, when it was starting to climb back out, 2010. Wow. because I was selling, but we were absolutely killing it, you know, in 05. You know, I was selling more than this builder could build. And then he'd disappear out of town and you'd never hear from him. The subs couldn't find him, the clients, you know, that kind of stuff. So that they were all calling me looking for answers, and I just kind of had to learn it from there so I can keep the people I'd sold houses to happy.
I mean, 09 though was not, the market had not, like, I mean, you could probably see some light maybe at the end of the tunnel, but I mean, it had to have still been kind of a risky, especially to just say, hey, I'm going to build my first house, right? Like, so talk us, what was going through your head when you were like, I'm just going to do it, forget it, man. Like, I'm just.
It was a super sketchy time. I was just getting divorced. I was getting divorced, living in my best friend's basement. Like, well, I don't have much else to lose. So let's this and. I'm a kind of like you said earlier, a burn the boats kind of guy. Like, if this is what you do it well. I don't have a lot of other skills. I didn't, you know, obviously I didn't finish high school. I didn't go to college. So I just put all my eggs in one basket and just ran with it. And the good thing about Montana is we didn't see the monster dips that other parts of the nation did. Montana always kind of stays level. Yeah, we don't, but we, you know, we've gotten the big appreciation lately, with all the press and stuff that Montana gets, and people wanting to get out of the big cities for politics or that kind of stuff. But back then it was just pretty steady, and then it was, you know, a gradual climb.
Well, I have so many questions.
Yeah, I got a lot. I'll take a stab at one. One of this might be feeling like it's jumping ahead. But how do you go from being a realtor, closing some deals, to getting into, you tell us, I don't know if it's flipping or if it's more realtor and, you know, buying units one at a time. How in God's name did you get to 1,000 units? What did that look like?
So I didn't own 1,000 units. I managed 1,000 units.
Okay, you manage 1,000 units. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a little different, but at the same time, to build a management company of 1,000 units is
still a lot.
Yeah,
is a lot. So let me ask you the question differently then. So how did you get to the point of managing 1,000 units, and what did you learn about managing the units that made you shift into your next move?
So I mean, I was just guerrilla marketing. If I saw for rent by owner, I'd pull over and I'd call, and I'd make relationships with the homeowners, and, you know, because a lot of them kind of know what they're doing, and a lot of them don't know anything. And then to this day, I'm the king of follow-up. So if they said, well, we're going to see if we can rent it ourselves, and I'd call them back in a week. And if they couldn't, you know, I would just be relentless and so I was selling real estate and building this property management company at the same time. And that led into a lot of sales, because then they get sick of managing, and you know, then in your pipeline, then they're getting your mailers and they're getting everything. Once I get a contact, I'm ruthless about keeping them in my ecosystem.
Did you have a good exit on the management company?
What's that, dude?
Was it a good exit on the management company?
It was a great exit on the management company. Yeah, it was good. And the reason I got out of it is, in property management, I learned real quick that most of the profit is in the maintenance. Yeah. So I built that maintenance division up, and you know, you're getting 5 to 10% a month management fees. So you have to have a large volume of units to make any money. And then as I was learning the building process and learning the financials of that, you learn that the profit margin is just so much bigger. And, you know, you keep one client happy, you get a bigger profit margin than, you know, trying to keep 1,000 property owners happy, you know, having to do maintenance on their house. They're not happy about that, you know, having vacancies.
Makes sense. Right. Quick question about, I had a couple questions about the management company. So the management company, is that what is, you're at 1,000 doors. Is that in itself, the business itself, is that like a very profitable company, or is it a tight margin type of company? How would you describe that type of business?
I think it's a medium margin. Again, all the profit that we were making, The fees are great, steady monthly income, but the real money in that is the maintenance.
Sure.
It needs a new roof. You have a roofer, you mark it up 20%. You get maintenance staff, you're charging them out at $30, $40 an hour. Keeping that staff, keeping good handyman handy, always having the landscaper, always having the connections to take care of the properties that need the maintenance.
In an exit like that, is that like a multiple 6-figure or a multiple 7-figure type of deal?
Back then, it was probably like a 3 or 4x deal back then, because that was early, late 2000s. So we weren't seeing the 8, 9, 10x sellouts then, and I was just ready to be out of it.
Yeah. So how did that fuel your next venture? How did you take that money and say, all right, I'm going to go more into this? Was it more real estate retail that you dove into, or is like, I'm going to start building now?
Yep. So I kept selling. I'm always selling, the first time home buyer or the people downsizing and stuff like that. So the real estate commissions always kept coming in, but again, it was slower, going through a divorce, that kind of stuff. And then to get one spec going, you got to have, you 20% down. So that's kind of how I funded that first deal. And then I found a developer that, they're the largest developer in Montana now, where I made a good relationship with them. And then they would subordinate lots to us. So then the bank will use that as the 20% down to when you start getting that high volume. So what
was the reason they would do that?
To move more land.
Yeah.
Just they had too much more. They had more than they could.
So they just
bite.
Yeah. So they
subordinating a lot would be, Levi.
Excuse me.
Go over what a subordinating a lot would be.
So a subordinated lot. So if a developer owns a land, so they'll own it free and clear, and then they'll deed the land over to you with a promissory note. So then you can use that at the bank as your 20% down to fund your construction.
Yeah.
And then at the end, you pay the land off.
Yeah. So you just go get the bank loan for the 80%. You give the 80% loan that you got to the developer, and they carry the note for the 20%.
You actually carry the note from the bank. The bank since they've deeded the land over to you in a trust indenture. They feel safe. They still have a product, because I have seen them do that before, where a builder fell through, and then they just take the property over and sell it. It works. It works pretty slick because they're able to move land. It's able to get us more product out there. And like if I'm building 60 houses a year, 20% down is quite a nut to crack every year.
Yeah. I got Michael Evans on IG. Sorry, Jason, just real quick. I got Michael Evans on IG saying, with the banks, the community, they need housing. He said the 20% is in second position. Is that true?
Correct. Yep. That's 100% correct.
Cool.
Yep.
At what stage of either entitlement or development is that builder handing those lots over to you? Are they putting in all the horizontal development and giving you finished lots, or is it just paper lots and then you've got to do both the horizontal and the vertical? Like, where does that transfer happen, and then when do you take it to
those lots are fully buildable, so all the
ready to go.
And everything.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
that's a pretty good deal for you.
It's a great
deal. Levi.
Yeah. I don't know if I would have been able to build up this volume this quick, in a decade or less, without that support. But it's been a great partnership, and they call it a tripod that helps that whole business. The bank, the developer, and the builder. It kind of helps everybody.
So Jason's going through some big land development deals right now, and has one that he's selling to a big builder who's going to take down everything. Presumably, Jason, you're going to have some other projects that you may do the same, or you may have some like parts of it that you break off and sell to someone like a Levi. How would Jason find someone like a Levi who's a developer who's going to build a spec house? Are those easy to find? Where would you find someone like you?
That's interesting. And I would find those builders that are building 5 to 10 houses a year, or like we talked about before, that tool belt guy that has never built a spec house, and maybe help him through the process to do that. That really helps out a developer move a bunch of land.
My assumption, I could be totally wrong, but my assumption is a big developer who's going to buy everything, and by everything meaning a lot of lots, would potentially get something a little bit of a discount compared to selling one lot to an individual builder.
Yeah.
So if the time and effort made sense, and that's all something to be figured out. Maybe a portion or some for Jason, it might make sense to go like direct to someone like a Levi.
Yeah, those big builders, they're obviously going to get a discount on buying a big chunk of lots like that. But like when you're typically getting a subordinated lot, you're paying retail.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Go ahead, Jason.
No, go ahead, bro.
All right. So what is the hardest thing you've been through in your career so far? And how have you gotten through it? Is one thing I'd love to learn. You've been in the game for a long time.
Yeah. The hardest part, everything's a struggle, right? Like the growth time as you're scaling, going from 10 houses to 20 was difficult, because then once you get to 20, you can't do it all yourself. Like I used to do, all the banking, all the spreadsheets, insurance, manage the jobs, everything, sell them. Scaling is by far the hardest thing I've done. Obviously, markets change. There's good markets and there's bad markets, and things that are curveballs. Then once you've built 20 to 40 homes, over a couple of years, then you've got warranty to take care of and keeping customers happy and stuff like that. So to me, scaling a business is probably the hardest thing I've ever done. Finessing the banks is never easy. I kind of have a natural gift at that, where bankers start to trust you and they build up more. Now I'm using 4 or 5 different lending institutes, and just started using private money here in the last couple of years, where a private investor will come in and invest $300,000. We build a spec house, pay them 8%, and then they get paid after the house is done in 6 months. So scaling with employees and project managers and all of that, to me, is probably the hardest.
Why didn't you raise private money earlier?
I didn't know about it, so what's funny is I'm, we're in Montana, and the city I live in is the biggest in Montana, and there's 100,000 people here. So I didn't know about private money strat until I joined the DM fam, and they started talking about all these guys doing flip houses and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden they started talking about it, and now I've got people asking me to do it, and now we're raising money, and it's so much easier with private money. You guys know, you don't have to deal with the banks and appraisals and stuff like that. It's definitely a lot more streamlined.
So how long ago was that? How long ago did you get in the DM fam and figure out about raising private money?
That was 3 years ago.
Okay, so you didn't know about private money until 3 years ago?
Yeah.
That's freaking wild.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So how are you? I think Strat touched on this, but I'd love to kind of unpack it a little bit more. How did you even scale? Was it just purely going to these big developers and subordinating these lots and taking them down? And okay, so then how did you get the capital to build the houses? Was it go to the sellers, go to the buyers who were going to buy this spec house, get a down payment, get installment payments for this, this stage of construction, et cetera, et cetera?
Yep. So the subordinated lots were the first big step. And then as I started rolling and having more capital, then I'd put my own money in. So that helped with volume. And then the pre-sold business is really where I really took off, because that's what we really do well. So Dean, you come and tell me you want to build a house, and you either have 20% cash, which not a lot of people do, but a lot of these people, this is their second or third house. So what the bank will do then is they'll take a lien on your house and use that as down payments for us to start construction. So we do a lot of deals. So about 80% of our pre-solds are people with second or third homes with equity in their homes.
To find those buyers, is that like a whole process, or is it just as you're putting a sign out front? You've got signage for open houses. They're coming and looking at the dirt on the weekend. You're posting it on Zillow. You know, build your dream house. Like what does that look like?
All of that, all of those things. But I kill it at open houses. I've created a little niche of builder open houses where you actually get to meet the builder, which is hopefully going to end. My sister works with me. She's a realtor as well. And I told her, like, I don't want to be doing open houses when I'm 50. So, but I get so many pre-solds because when people walk into an open house and they're all standoffish with the realtor, and when they find out that you built the house, then they just automatically open up to you. And, you know, just being likable, asking the right questions, following up is, you know, obviously huge.
Levi, one of the concerns I have, because we're running our flipping and wholesaling business in parallel to the development deals that we're doing, mainly because it just spits off cash at a much faster rate, right? So we can continue to pay our bills. We have cash coming in. I don't have to worry about all of the big cash that we have to get tied up into this development deal. Like, for instance, we're selling our 250 lots in 4 phases, 1 phase per year, but phase 1 doesn't close until fall of 2026, right? And I just signed a $900,000 contract with my engineer. We've got construction getting ready to go on the first phase, right? So we were talking at lunch the other day, like, I'm actually selling some assets just to get in a better capital situation, to have liquid cash. Plus, I've been really good at raising money, but I'm curious as to what you do in between. Like, now you're up and running, and so you have sales coming in. So I would imagine your cash conversion cycles are a little bit better. But at the beginning, when the runway to get these first deals is longer, is that why you kept your agent business going, or are there other ways to keep money coming in the short term that you can do while you're waiting for some of these bigger pops on some of your developments?
Yeah, that's 100% the reason I kept my agency business running. Yeah. And now that business, we control the whole process.
Yeah.
We sell them the house, you know, the house that we built. Then we sell the people's house. We control what lender they go to. So then when we're 60 days from being complete with the house, then we put their house on the market. We control their moving times. It's a full service offer now, to where, you know, we can offer discounts on the brokerage to get people to, it's one-stop shop where they don't have to. But in developments, by far the biggest cash suck that you'll ever get into up front, and all the money's in the back end.
Yeah.
You got to pay off everybody else first before the developer makes any money. So that's the trick of development. That's the hardest part.
Are you guys doing just, I mean, obviously it sounds like your sweet spot is like building the homes and doing the vertical construction, but have you done any of the you know, kind of the bridge from like getting the deal from the landowner, doing all the entitlement work, maybe doing the site improvements, and then sold off like the lots after they've been entitled or papered? Or is your focus just building the houses just because that's your sweet spot and you let somebody else find the land, entitle it, and sell it to you?
So yeah, so the vertical has been our sweet spot, but I've been partners in some of these smaller developments in getting them going. So I've been through the process, and that's the next progression for us, is to get into that development. So then we can control the whole process. And that happens a lot where you guys are at, to where you come to a subdivision, you have to build with that builder, because if you want to be in that subdivision, you have to. Yeah. So that's the kind of the next progression that we're wanting to make, is to get to that point.
Nice. What type of margin are you going for on the house that you're looking at it?
We're typically 20% a home run. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So obviously, like right now with interest rates, you know, being close to 7, we're not getting that, but but then during the pandemic, we were getting, you know, 30%. It was, you know, just different times. Right now, it's kind of sell a house, move on to the next one, pay, you know, get everything paid off, and move on.
One of the things, just in talking to home builders out here and just contractors in general that maybe do a one-off house here and there, one of the concerns that they have is just their exposure after the actual sale of the house, right? I think in California, you're on the hook for some of the, like for 10 years for some of the stuff. Is that the same in Montana? And like, what do you do? Obviously, quality control, you got to put a good product out there and make sure that it's good. But what do you do to mitigate your risk after the fact from getting sued or having to go back and fix stuff years after?
Yeah, that's a great question. We, obviously building the good product is the best warranty that you can do. Then we do a 1-year craftsmanship warranty, so basically everything's under warranty for a year. Then we do a 210 warranty. It's called. It's 2-year mechanical, 10-year structural. It's actually a separate insurance company. I don't know if you've heard of it. And they've got some good clauses in there to protect the builder from being sued and stuff like that. It's not if, it's when. We all go through that stuff. A lot of houses we're peering now, so we can get rid of that structural issue. So we peer down to bedrock. Because there's in the town that I'm in, there's like five or six different soils pockets that's really hard to navigate. So we're peering a lot of houses, but I mean, you can do whatever you can to mitigate it, but there's always going to be issues. And that's the hardest part when you're doing volume is the callbacks, the warranty. You have to scale.
What do you like? One of the things that I'm seeing, like in California, there's a lot of environmental stuff, right? So we're going through with our engineer, and we have a $39,000 environmental study that we have to do to find out the impact of like our project on the habitat of like some lizard that's out here, right? And it's going to take 10 months and do all of this stuff. And is it similar type of hoops that you have to jump through, like in Montana, to be able to go through that? Or like, I mean, obviously, I think people look at the title of this pod and they see, oh man, Levi's cranking out 60 houses a year. These are his price points. I do the math with his margin. He must be printing money. But I mean, there's got to be a million things, dude, that come up that just chew through capital, all the surprises and all that stuff. And like, what are some of those like landmines that you have to navigate?
We're definitely not as strict in Montana as California, right? So I mean, the politics here are pretty good, but we're having those issues. Like we're in Helena, Montana, and there was a smelting plant there for 100 years that polluted the ground. So DEQ is going and stripping and doing a whole bunch of stuff. There's always those issues, those curveballs that come at you that are going to suck up cash. You want to make 15% margin, and that gets eaten up in warranty. All of those things, and just troublesome clients. I call it the 1 in 10 rule. It used to be 1 in 10, now it's like 1 in 5. Out of 10 clients, one's just crazy as hell. Yeah. So those things just eat up time and money.
How much of your life now at scale is like politics? Me and Jason have talked about this. You got to kind of be tied in with the cities in order to get stuff, especially you going into new cities now. I feel like that would be the hardest thing to scale, is me making those relationships in that city to make sure my stuff goes smoothly.
Absolutely. Every time we get a new building inspector, we have to like figure out his quirks and just weird things that he does. But yeah, moving into these different communities, what I've done really good is becoming part of the community. We hire all local subs. We do the fundraising and throw the parties and everything to just get meshed into the community. And Montanans, with the big influx of people from California, Washington moving in, everyone loves that you're from Montana.
You're a Montana builder, that you're from the state. Yeah, that adds to that too. Yeah.
And we're playing into that, obviously, but when I go down to Jason's development and we partner up on something in Bakersfield, I won't be able to play that card.
Yeah, that's right. What's the I heard you say at the beginning you want to grow into one of the national builders. I love being around people that think big. I love being around people that have those big visions, right? So what does it take from you to go from 60 homes a year to 600 to 6,000 to, I mean, DR's doing 90,000, you know what I mean? Like what does that progression look like, and how do you envision that happening for yourself?
I love that question, because this influx of new private money has opened up a new world to me, to where that's possible. The things that I've done when I'm moving into other communities is finding the best project manager that I can find around, finding the jockey that that I can trust to build the house. And we've got fantastic people that are building those homes. It's the key for me is to finding the people to handle the day to day, so I can go out and scale those things. I just started a building coaching group that I'm going to do, that I think will lead into that, to where I'll coach somebody to scale this business. You know, that guy that's framed houses for 20 years but wants to build 10 houses a year.
Yeah.
To where then I can fund those houses, or I can become partners with him.
Yeah, it creates JV opportunities for you guys.
Yep, yeah, absolutely. So because there's just not a lot of people that can scale from that 5 houses a year to 20. Not everybody wants to do 100 or 500 or 90,000 like I do. I want to keep growing and pushing the envelope as much as possible.
As the leader and the visionary for the company, what do you think are the handful of things that really move the needle for your type of business that would spur this type of growth that isn't something that maybe you can delegate to your team, right? Like, what is it? Is it deal sourcing? Is it capital raising? Is it just building the culture? What do you think are like the things that Levi does that can't be handed off to somebody else?
The biggest thing is that upfront sales is what we haven't been able to duplicate yet. That meet the builder that you can only do so many times a week. So I've done a good job. So now I've got an office manager, we've got a real estate assistant, I've got the 3 project managers, and now I'm hiring an executive assistant to handle like the day-to-days, to where I'm not making budgets and returning emails. Finding that lead generation is going to be and then the capital, because they're going to want to be in front of the main person as well. So those are the things that I have to focus on. But if I could get the day-to-day tasks done, then I could meet with 30 potential buyers a week.
Yeah.
So that's the hardest part.
How was the influence on Arte Syndicate, especially when you joined at the beginning, when there was like $100,000 like up front to join, and how did that change your mindset around everything? Because I feel like we've all listened to Andy Frisella, and Andy is, in my opinion, like I love him, and bootstrap billionaire essentially is crazy. So like, how did that help with your journey overall?
And I said this before, being from Montana is tough for entrepreneurs. Like, there's just not a lot of like-minded people that want to go out and conquer. Like there's guys that want to build 10, 20 houses a year, and that's fantastic. But there's not a lot of people that want to do that kind of business that guys like us want to do. So joining groups like Arte and the DM fam and stuff like that has been great to be around, meet and strat, and being around people that have bigger visions, because people think I'm crazy, think that I'm delusional, high school dropout, no college education, and you wanna go and take over the world, where to me that's just it. And then being around Andy Frisella and my letter taught me it's okay to be intense. Because I'm an intense guy. I know you guys grew up athletes. Like, I'm a wrestler, college scholarships when I was a freshman, all of that kind of stuff. You can't teach that kind of drive. And Andy Frisella just emulates that on a day-to-day basis. But Ed Milet, when you meet him personally, is the most intense person I've ever met. Like, you don't become close to a billionaire without being super, super high-driven intense. So I think my biggest takeaway from that is it's okay being intense and wanting more and pushing.
I think that was the biggest thing I've struggled with, is being too, like, I feel like I'm too intense to where it's okay. Like, we can just drive the boat and be intense. There's nothing wrong with it. You just got to learn how to navigate the interpersonal dynamics in your leadership style. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and that's what's great about working with my sister, is we could tell each other to go F off, and then it's like, okay, where are we going to lunch?
Yeah.
There's no hurt feelings. There's no, nothing like that. So being intense is okay. But as long, taking care of your clients is, again, the most important thing. And steering the boat for the people that are around you is right up there for me, is taking care of their families and making sure everyone's taken care of.
Coming from high level sports, I love that you said that. That kind of struck a chord for me, because I've tried to balance, like, harnessing my own intensity and applying it, and then how I carry that intensity back to my team, and to what level of intensity. Like I definitely am bring a lot of motivation, but a lot of it tends to be positive. And I'll call a spade, but maybe a little too nice. Not that being nice is bad, right? But like this last Friday, I just was like, nope, I'm just taking off all the niceness off of it. I'm not sugarcoating anything. Like I dropped the more F-bombs than I ever have on a team meeting this last Friday. And it was like, guys, this is the new standard, and we all got to step up. So I'm fired up. My partner and I, we were just talking before I got on this. That's why I was a couple minutes late. Like I'm fired up. I'm ready to just break down new walls and get to new levels.
And I love that because that word that you just said has been coming out of my mouth the last couple of days is the standard. Our standard has to be higher. Or we have to set a higher standard for everything. Now my son's working for me. He's 23, and so he's cleaning all the houses that we're building. So I took him around and showed him what I expected, because if you drive up to another builder's house and there's lumber all over the place, wrappers flying everywhere, that's not our standard. Because we sell, the best form of advertising we have are our signs in the yard. And when people drive by and we have clean job sites, that's our standard, and people call us to that.
Totally. How big's your team?
So we've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 full-time employees now. Yep. And then we subcontract everything else out.
Yeah.
Jason, I'm gonna go deep down the. Do you have a different question you want to go into? Because I'm gonna go deep into team, unless you want to hit something else.
This is a little tangential thing, and then I have some questions about team, so you can kick off after that, Dean. Let me ask you this. So, like, I'm curious to know, with all the noise that's happening with tariffs, and that has to affect lumber prices and the prices of appliances and blah, 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 blah. And at the volume that you're doing, you've got a lot of cash going out, right? Like, what do you do? I just curious, just like one business owner to the other, like, what are some of the things that you do to just keep your head screwed on straight, right? To not let some of that outside noise like impact and affect your decision-making practices. Because it isn't like in our business, we can go out, lock up a deal, and we can wholesale it, and we can get a check in 30 days. You know what I'm saying? And so we can go out there and make some money and bring some money in. But like, you go lock up a deal tomorrow, you know, by the time, like, you're probably not getting a check for 12, 18, 24 months, you know, depending on where exactly what stage of development it's at, right? So you've got to have a much longer vision. How do you keep your head screwed on straight and deal with all the noise and the ups and downs?
Two things. I do 75 hard every year. I'm at the tail end of it right now. I always do it right about end of February when the weather's shitty in Montana. I want to feel like a savage. I want to keep my mind clear. And I want, that really dials me in. And then I have such a good relationship. I've created that relationship capital with my vendors and all of my subs, to where we're negotiating better deals because we're buying such volume and just nailing those prices down. When lumber prices went through the roof during the pandemic, my lumberyard owner called me. He's like, raise the prices of all your houses before anybody else knew it. I did. I never took a loss on a house. Some of the margins were super slim. But those relationships are absolute gold. And I cultivate all of those all the time in every community that we're building in, from my electricians to my plumbers. I make sure I know the pricing, I know what's happening before it happens. So we're able to kind of hedge some of those bets. And then I play off the fear of the markets a little bit. Like I'm filming some social media content. Hey, are you super freaked out about the tariffs? This is a spec house we built before the tariffs were hit. Come buy it before prices skyrocket. Where we might not see a skyrocket, but let's move some inventory because of it.
Totally. So I'd love to dive back into the team aspect. You got 7 team members.
Yeah.
Okay. Kind of hit you with a handful of questions here. Are all those team members long tenured team members? They've been with you for years, or turnover that happens? What does that look like?
I've had some turnover. So obviously my sister's been with me the longest. My original vision for her was to get her real estate license and kind of be an assistant. But then she turned out to be a rock star and became a great sales force and a good partner in crime for me to have. So that worked out fantastic. Our real estate assistant has been with us just over a year. As we were scaling, we needed a real estate assistant because we're trying to close 100 real estate deals a year, not new construction, as well as the building. So we're trying to, keep that business going as well. Angie, my project manager, has been with us 3 years, and she's we partnered with Mike Burns Strat on a mortgage company, and she's going full-time mortgage because that building that business has taken off. My project managers, Mike and Helen, has been with us a couple of years since we went there. But I did have a project manager here in Billings, and he was a great friend of mine. We grew up together, played sports together, and I always say there's seasons for relationships and people like that. We just kind of outgrew what he was capable of doing, and the quality of work was going down, and he decided he wanted to go do it himself, and so we replaced him here with a fantastic guy, and so that's helping us grow because what I thought was going to be a negative turned out to be a positive. Our quality is better, our customer service is better, so it ebbs and flows.
Real quick, Levi, how did you navigate that conversation? Because I think that's the hardest part for most entrepreneurs. As you grow, the people who helped you get to one point are not going to help you get to the next point, and a lot of us are loyal. We care about people, but you do have to, the best word I could say is prune to make sure that we can make room for the next person who is going to help us get there to the next level.
Yeah.
So how did you navigate that?
Unfortunately, it didn't go as smoothly as I wanted because I am that loyal guy. I'm loyal. Like my sister always tells me, like, you have to quit being so loyal because it ends up hurting us. I tried to make it work for too long, and then it ended kind of messy, which is fine. It wasn't messy. It just, he wasn't happy. I wasn't happy. And the split was fine, but it just, the long-term relationship is fractured. And that was kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
You're right. That's a hard thing to navigate. That's a hard thing to do, especially when you're longtime friends and he's got a family he's got to take care of. And that stuff weighs heavy on me taking care of your team and making sure everyone's in good positions.
That is a tricky one. When it comes to training, what type of training are you guys doing? You're dealing with complex things. This isn't simple real estate deals. There's a lot of expertise that needs to go into how you put these deals together and execute on them. So is your training ongoing, consistent, or you just hire the right person, you have some onboarding and they're either the expert at it or not? What does your training look like for your team?
Yeah, the training's a hard thing to do because building a house, nothing's the same ever. Yeah. It's not cookie cutter. The one thing that's helped me, I'm getting my pilot's license right now. And what I'm learning about that is everything's a checklist. From your pre-flight to you take off, your cruise checklist. So I'm making checklists for everything right now, and I'm actually following the Dan Martell method of the camcorder method. He calls it. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Just listened to the book a month ago.
Yeah, that book's fantastic, right?
Really good.
That's turning out to be really, really powerful.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. But training's hard.
So to wrap up the team topic, so we talked about being a sports guy, having intensity, kind of holding a standard for your team. How does it look like for you to bring your intensity to the team? As you mentioned with your sister, you guys could, tell each other to F off and then where are we going to lunch after? Is that something that you also do with your team? And that's just how it is? Or how do you bring your intensity to your team? And what does that look like?
Yeah, I don't transfer that to anybody else. That's just how we were raised. My dad was a truck driver. We grew up super, super poor. So our intensity kind of feeds off each other, and we have to tone that down. So like Angie is one of my best friends' wife, and she gets a little emotional. So I told her she had to quit crying. So, and not everybody's as hardcore as us. But so that's one thing I'm pretty good at, is that emotional intelligence, to kind of feel like when you're pushing too hard, when you're not pushing hard enough. The project manager guys are easy. They're just dudes. They're just, they're out. You can tell them anything. They just let anything roll off their back. But you kind of have to just feel each individual person and how far you can push them or what works.
Yeah.
Bro, what is the 5-year plan? Like, all right, in 5 years, I want to be here. I know you're thinking about it.
Yeah, I am. The first goal, because I'm a big goal guy. The first goal is 100 houses. I want to hit 100 houses. We're looking at a different market in Montana right now. And people ask me, why did I move out of one market and why did it go to 3? Because we only have 100,000 people in our city, so there's only so much volume you can build. If we were in LA or something like that, you probably could pump out more, but there's just so much. So we're looking at Great Falls, Montana, and then so 100 is the big goal that I want to hit next. And I want to get into other states. I want to develop more land. And kicking off this coaching program and trying to help more people reach their goals is kind of a big deal for me.
Bro, I love it.
Yeah.
How are you picking out your next market? Like, do you talk to ChatGPT as much as we do?
I talk to it probably not as much as you, but dude, I'm fascinated. I am absolutely fascinated. So the next market is Great Falls, Montana, and it's a big Air Force Base town. It hasn't had a ton of growth, but the first term that Trump had, he signed a bill to upgrade all of the bunkers are running on 1940s technology. So there's a ton of like tech money rolling into in this kind of central Montana. So, and there's just a super underserved market. So that's why we're picking that one. So we're looking at underserved markets and where there's less competition.
Would you ever do 2 questions, I guess, with the cash that you're making from the business? I mean, I know sounds like you're in growth mode, so I'm assuming some of that's getting rolled up to scale.
Yeah.
But are you taking that and deploying it into real estate as far as holding with your property management background? And the second question is, I'm curious as your thoughts on build to rent, especially since you're a builder and you have some baked in margin. Can you, like, if you're doing a subdivision of, 50, 60 houses, right? Can you sell 50 of them and just keep 10, turn those into rentals, and just now you have a brand new rental that's not going to have all the maintenance and capital expense and repairs?
Yep. I set this goal a while ago that I'm buying at least one rental a year for myself. That a lot of years that turns into more.
Yeah.
And that build to rent market right now is huge. That is because you've got no maintenance, up front, that kind of stuff. It is a huge market, and we're marketing to that quite a bit. We're getting a lot of 1031 money coming, that want to, we sell a lot of that good product with that. I think that's a huge market.
But you wouldn't like cut off 5 of them that if you built 50, right? And you're like, okay, I'll keep these 5 and I'll just rent them out myself.
100%. I would do. I think 10% is a great number. Like, so I do 5 of those good houses, one level, 1,300 square feet, 1 car garage. I build 5 and I keep the 6th one for myself. So what's kind of slick then is you can negotiate a lot of cheaper materials, all of that, cheaper labor, and that all cash flows great.
Yeah. That's good. I like that.
Do you have crazy rental laws in Montana?
I don't.
Pretty wild west.
I don't think it's crazy. I think it's pretty easy. I mean, I'm sure it's not as bad as California, but I mean, there's property management laws, but I don't think there's nothing nuts.
That's awesome. Are you still plunging? I know we used to message back and forth every time we got in that bitch.
I fucking hate that thing. But what I'm finding is I have to go to a dark place some days to go there. Like, I got to throw in Young Dolph and like think of my enemies to get into that thing, man. But I sleep so much better when I do it at night. I sleep hard.
Yeah, I have one in my garage, and I've done I have to check my tracker, but probably like 220 plunges. I'm down to like 41 degrees. And I noticed the same thing. Like I have a sauna in there. So I'll do the sauna, dry off, and then jump in the plunge. And I'll do it like last night. I did like 8:30 at night. And it was the best sleep that I got all week. I hadn't done it before, but yeah. Dude,
I use the Oura Ring tracker. And when I do it at night, my sleep is so much better.
Yeah, same.
But that thing, it doesn't get easier.
No.
What really sucks in Montana when it's 40 below and you got to go get in that darn thing. That's no fun.
That's crazy. That's too much. I'm not. Yeah. Dean would say you're crazy. He won't even get in anything underneath 60 degrees. He's kind of soft that way.
60, come on. Okay, so degrees. Levi, I want to get your opinion on this. I love the cold plunge to be at approximately 45 degrees. That seems reasonable. You don't have any childhood traumas that you're trying to heal. I'll even inch down closer to 40, but 40, I just think there's some personal problems you're trying to get through. My brother-in-law was doing 37. Okay. There's some other things to talk about. Strat Daddy over here was telling me, 40 degrees, that's totally warm. You should be doing it. I've done polls on Instagram. Most people agree with me that if you're at 40 degrees or below, you're trying to heal childhood traumas. What's your take on this?
I've got a ton of trauma, so I don't like to see that 4 number on there. So I have some hate to get through.
Yeah. Okay. So you like the pain. You want to be sub 40, absolutely torture yourself. Okay.
How long are you guys going for?
5.
Yeah. I go 3 minutes. Yeah, I'm 3 minutes on that.
I think 3 to 5 is good.
Yeah. But I like to see at least 39 just to, to help the pain a little bit.
Right. Like you accomplished something. Like you're like, okay, I really went through it today. At times I'd stare at that bitch for 20 minutes. And then
it doesn't get easier, dude. Every time you're negotiating with yourself a little bit.
Have you guys ever tried to do it when you're tired? Like I've literally had my brain like short circuit, like the power was turned off and I'm like, I'm about to drown in this thing right now,
There's just so much pain.
Yeah.
So much pain.
Yeah. Bro. It's funny how much interaction I get on Instagram from that cold plunge. People love to comment.
People love it.
So
last thing, spec wise.
Yep.
I grew up in Utah and the spec builders, everyone lost their ass. So how are you mitigating your risk on that? Is everything pre-sold? Like no matter what, this is just
I still do a lot of spec houses. I bet you a third of the houses I have going at any time are spec. I just keep that low end pricing. I never get higher than like 600 on a spec, just because you can always cut your prices and cut your losses and move the house. The developer that I work for, he's a fantastic older gentleman, and he told me if you build specs that you like, that you would like to live in, you'll end up living in it.
Yeah.
So I keep 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. And the thing in Montana too is I'll do like 3-car garages wherever I can, except for that very low end, just because everybody's got toys and stuff here. Everyone's got boats and RVs and things. So, but that's historically the case, is that spec builder can get in trouble when they build too many.
What's the percentage of your volume for like the good, better, best? Like, right? Like percentage wise, like how big of a tranche is the good, the better, the best? And what's for a resale house, not new construction, but what's the average median price point for a typical house in the market that you're?
I think the median around here right now is about 500. And
that's really good.
Yeah. And I bet you we're 20% good. Probably 60 to 70% that better, and
that makes sense if your median price point is around 5, right? Because our median price point here is like high 3s, let's call it 375, maybe a little bit more, and new construction starts a hair over 4 for the good product out here, right? From a national builder, right? So I can see why you would sell more. Is your margin the same on that better model? Is it still there, or are you able to squeeze out a few more bucks?
It's a little better. Yeah, the margin gets better as you get higher. Yeah,
that's what I was going to say. Yeah,
that good product really, guys, right now is like pays our overhead. That's what I do.
Okay.
Yeah, we try to close one of those a month, and it pays all the overhead and all that kind of stuff. So, and Jason, when you're in this development, I've got good low entry plans and stuff. I'm happy to share them with you, and anything I can do to help you.
I honestly would be open to just maybe taking a trip out there. Maybe the three of us will go out there. I'd love to go check out your project and walk it and just kind of learn a thing or two. I think that would be cool.
Absolutely. And with this coaching program that I'm doing, I'm giving away a free checklist for builders from start to finish. So if anybody would like that, just message me on Instagram and just say Deal Champs, and I'll send that over to you for free. Because it all starts, not every lot is flat and easy to do. There's so many variables to building a house. It's different from buying and flipping and wholesaling, because you're not tearing into walls and you don't know what you're getting. But there are some variables that can catch you up, and I'm helping a couple of guys right now where they put the wrong plan on a lot that it should have been a daylight basement, and they try to do a crawl space, and they ended up wasting a bunch of money and not making a very good margin on their very first spec house, where just a couple little due diligence things will save you a ton of money.
That's awesome.
Why don't you do Jackson Hole? I'm sorry, I got one more question. Like, Jackson Hole is a market that is going to the moon.
Right.
I feel like doing a spec home in Jackson Hole, to me, sounds like a very shiny object that could make you lots of money.
Yeah, we just got to get there. It's just so far away from us right now. That's the hardest. For me, everything in Montana is 3 hours away. Like, for me to get to the very west part of the state, and I'm right in the central, it's 8 hours.
So that's why you're getting your pilot's license.
That's why I'm getting the pilot's license. And that is fun as hell.
Yeah.
So then I can just buzz
buy a
out and hang out with you guys.
You have the flex of the plane, and you can fly your plane all over. I think that's
absolutely. Dude, it's so fun. Well, it's
what is it? How much does it condense the travel time? If it's 3 hour drive, is it then like less than an hour in the plane?
45 minutes,
45.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It makes a big difference.
On time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the only thing that I've found that I've done since I've started in business where I can't think about anything else. Even when you're with your family, I coach my kids in sports and all that kind of fun stuff. Your mind's always somewhere, dealing with a problem here and there. But when you're flying a plane, you're only thinking about putting that thing back on the ground.
Yeah, that's right.
Survival.
Absolutely. And then I always feel like you got to be pushing. You got to do hard shit like the cold plunge or, rucking or something that pushes you.
Well, I love it. You guys have any other questions?
No. When are we going out to Montana, boys?
Yeah.
Right. Oh,
Strad, you missed
what's a good time of year to go out there?
Oh, dude, summertime's fantastic. The lake.
Yeah, I was going to say summer's probably nice. Yeah.
Unless you're really big into skiing and snowboarding and stuff.
No.
Let's put together a meetup out there and let's make
that
it.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah, dude, that would be dope.
Let's do a meetup out there. That would be dope.
Yeah.
And I'd go out there and spend a week.
Absolutely. Rent a lake house and do a little experience. That'd be fun.
There we go.
Oh, hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Levi, where can people find out more about you? And do you have any final words for the people?
I'm at Instagram, just my name, Levi Wanner, Wanner. Final words are everybody just needs to keep pushing. Don't get complacent. Don't get comfortable. I'm all about pushing the boundaries all the time. And I really appreciate you fellas in your time and having me on.
I love it, bro. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah. You guys have a great day, and we'll chat with you all very soon.
Thank you, guys. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Talk to you guys soon.
Peace.
See ya.